David Mitchell caused some feathers to be ruffled last week on his Soapbox podcast. Link in the show notes if you haven't seen it. His crime was to call the classic series proudly and unambiguously a children's show, and no doubt fans were insulted by his implication that we were people who haven't managed to cling on to a sense of proportion. The main thrust of his rant, however, was a wider one about television in general, which may well have been missed. His concern was that these days a huge amount of stuff seems to be aimed at children, but with the assumption that adults, and not just parents, will consume it too. And he wanted to see family programmes which were adults' programmes that are also accessible to children, rather than so predominantly the other way round. As I look at this representative sample of my DVD shelf, i.e. stuff that isn't weird or overly funnish for an adult to own, his point becomes clear for both TV and films. There's plenty of stuff there from before I was born and my own childhood that wasn't made primarily for kids that I was introduced to as a child. As we get closer to the present, there's less of that kind of material, and I, like David Mitchell, think that it's a great shame. Having said all that, I'd like to point out that he is wrong about Doctor Who not being a family show back then, when it started, and here's my mum to remind him of why.
When I was growing up, we didn't really watch very much television at all. I think it's because my father was a very active going-out man. But we did, as a family, watch Doctor Who. So they obviously decided we'd have some family viewing, and we used to sit and watch that together.
Admittedly, the show did have the ability to insult the intelligence of its older viewers in the early days.
When I put my thumb on there, the light comes on. And it only stays on so long as my thumb is pressing that switch. As soon as I take it off, a little spring inside releases the switch here, and out goes the light.
But more recently, when it strayed from its family format, the show has gone in the opposite direction with scenes that are deemed unsuitable for the younger kids. If you've not seen that full interview with my parents, then there's a link back to it in the show notes. Don't forget to check out the material from Hooverville, which can be found on various other podcasts, and there's still time to send in your feedback from episode 41. Meanwhile, I'm off to see if I can find my sense of proportion.